If you're a parent, you know this feeling all too well. You finally get your baby down for a nap. You tiptoe out of the room, you grab that cup of coffee you've been dreaming of, and then, like clockwork, 30 minutes on the dot, they're awake. It is the dreaded 30-minute nap, and it feels like this impossible mystery. Well, today, we are going to crack the case.
Right, let's just get straight to it because this is the question, isn't it? It's the one every single exhausted parent is typing into their phone at 3 in the morning. It feels like there's some kind of secret timer going off that you just can't find. So what is actually going on here?
Well, here's where things get interesting. According to somnopedagogy consultant Allison Carminati, the problem isn't that we can't find the answer. The problem is we might be asking the wrong question entirely. And that tiny shift in perspective, well, it could change everything. And here it is, the big aha moment. Allison Carminati says the real issue isn't why does my baby wake up? Waking up briefly between sleep cycles is totally normal. It's physiological. We all do it. The real mystery we need to solve is why can't they connect to that next sleep cycle and fall back asleep? Okay, so let's become detectives. We're going to decode this micro wake up. We're going to get to the bottom of what turns a brief, natural little stir into a full-blown knops-over kind of event. So first, let's get our terms straight. When we talk about a short nap, we're not just talking about a nap that feels too short. We mean something very specific, a nap that lasts for exactly one sleep cycle. For a baby, that's usually about 30 to 45 minutes. They do one cycle, they hit that natural micro wake up, and boom, they're up for the day. So why can't they reconnect? Well, it usually boils down to one of four main culprits. It could be their fatigue level, either too much or too little. It could be a rocky start to the nap itself, or it could be something in their environment, or even some physical discomfort they're feeling. Let's break these down. First up, and this might be the most important one of all, fatigue. This is a real Goldilocks situation. It's not just about being tired. It's about hitting that perfect window for sleep. It's a delicate balance for sure. And this lays it out perfectly. On one side, if you put a baby down when they aren't quite tired enough, their sleep pressure is just too low. Sure, they might drift off, but at that first micro wake up, there's nothing pushing them back to sleep. But on the other side of the spectrum, an overtired baby is flooded with the stress hormone cortisol. This leads to this really fragile, agitated sleep that makes it almost impossible to connect those cycles. Allison Carminati has a great analogy for this. She calls it the missed train effect. Just think about it. If your baby spends 20 or 30 minutes fighting to fall asleep, they basically already burned through a huge chunk of that precious first sleep cycle. The nap is cut short before it even really gets going. Now, beyond fatigue, there are a few other usual suspects. A room that's even a little too warm, that's a huge one for discomfort. For little babies, their own startle reflex, that Moro reflex, can literally jolt them awake. And of course, there's always the possibility of physical stuff. Teething, gas, a cold, anything that makes it hard to get comfy again. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the why. Let's get to the good stuff, the how. Because understanding the problem is one thing, but what we really want are solutions, right? The great news is there are gentle, sensory-based approaches that can make a huge difference. This whole approach really starts with one thing, observation. You have to become a detective of your baby's sleep cues. And I'm not just talking about yawning. Look for this subtle stuff, like when they start gazing away or their body gets a little limp. Then create a super simple, repeatable sensory ritual. It's not about a long, complicated routine. It's just consistent cues that say, hey, it's time to sleep. And finally, a quick comfort check. Simple as that. And here is a fantastic and brilliantly simple tool for that sensory ritual, the Tupinino. It's literally just a little piece of cloth, like a muslin square, that you keep tucked into your shirt for a while so it absorbs your scent and your warmth. Then, when you put your baby down, you place this nearby. It bridges that sensory gap, providing this feeling of continuity so it's not such a shock to be put down alone. And hey, for those really little ones who are still dealing with that powerful startle reflex, a gentle swaddle can be an absolute game changer. It just helps contain those jerky movements that so often happen right at that delicate micro wake-up point, keeping them from accidentally waking themselves all the way up. All right, let's pull all of this together into a practical toolkit. These are real, concrete steps you can start thinking about today to encourage those longer, much more restorative naps. Let's begin with what I call the anchor of the day. For babies about 6 months and older, one of the most powerful things you can do for sleep is to establish a fixed wake-up time in the morning. Seriously, that one single anchor point helps regulate the body's entire rhythm for the day, making everything from feedings to nap times way more predictable. Now for the big one, what about feeding to sleep? Alison Carminati's advice here is so important and so gentle. Don't just rip it away cold turkey. That just creates stress for everyone. Instead, you start to layer in those other sensory cues while you're feeding. Maybe you hum a certain song or hold the tupanino. Over time, the baby starts to associate all those new cues with sleep, not just the feeding. So, here it is, your simple go-to pre-nap checklist. 4 questions. 1. Is the room cool? 2. Am I catching that fatigue sweet spot? Not too early, not too late. 3. Have I used our consistent calming ritual? And 4. Is my baby physically comfortable? Just running through these can honestly make all the difference. So, the big takeaway here, really, is that there is so much hope. You are not doomed to a life of 30-minute naps forever, I promise. This isn't about sleep training or rigid rules. It's about becoming an observer and making these gentle, responsive adjustments. And I really want to leave you with this final, empowering thought from Alison Carminati. She says short naps are not a fatality. They are not your destiny. By adjusting that timing just a little bit and by focusing on sensory comfort, you really can help those naps get longer little by little. So that leaves us with one last question. And it doesn't have to be some massive change. Just think about it. What is one small sensory change you could try today? A consistent hum? That special comfort cloth? A gentle sway? What's one little thing you can do to start building that bridge to a longer, more peaceful nap?